Hi everyone, welcome back. Thanks for joining us today. If you're new here, I'm really glad you're here too. We've got a brand new story to share with you. So let's begin. My name is Gabriel, and today I want to tell you something that took me a while to understand everything and even longer to accept it. I proposed to a woman I truly loved, but when she looked me dead in the eyes and said, "My parents don't think you're good enough. We need a break," my heart didn't break right away. I simply gave her what she asked for. I made the break permanent, and she got mad. If you stick with me through the rest of this story, you'll understand why my decision wasn't cold. It was necessary. There's more to this than one conversation. So stay with me. I met Alicia on a dating site. I wasn't even expecting much that day, to be honest. You go on those apps enough, and you sort of build up a wall. You stop expecting anything real. But then her profile popped up with just enough charm to make me pause. So I swiped right. And when I saw we matched, I remember thinking, all right, maybe this one's worth it. We started chatting, and it felt natural. After a few days of chatting, I asked if she'd be up for grabbing a coffee. I didn't dress to impress. I showed up like myself, and surprisingly, the date went really well. Time passed so quickly that we didn't even notice it was getting dark. We decided we'd like to see each other again. And we did. Again and again. Little by little, we started peeling back layers. And after a handful of dates, we had the conversation, do we want to make this official? We both said yes. The beginning of our relationship felt smooth, and looking back, I realize a big part of that was because I let things flow in her direction. I didn't push back on much. If she wanted to eat somewhere, we did. If she didn't want to talk about something, we dropped it. It wasn't because I didn't have opinions. It was because I liked her more than I probably should have. And when you like someone like that, you find yourself making excuses in your head for things you'd normally notice. The little attitude when things don't go her way? I told myself she was just passionate. The way she always had to be right in an argument? I convinced myself it was confidence. You start convincing yourself that small red flags are just quirks. And when you care, it's easier to turn your head the other way. Of course, like any couple, we had misunderstandings. Sometimes they were over small things. Other times, it was over bigger things. But nothing ever felt too big to overcome. We'd argue, take some space, and then come back and sort things out. That cycle repeated itself more than a few times, but it never broke us. We kept holding on. By the time we were approaching our third year together, I felt confident about where we were headed. We'd been through enough to know each other's flaws and habits. So, I decided it was time. I proposed, and she said yes. She seemed thrilled. Almost immediately, we kicked into wedding planning mode. It was like flipping a switch. One of the first practical steps we took was opening a joint savings account specifically for the wedding. We both agreed that it wouldn't make sense for one person to handle all the costs. It was supposed to be our wedding, our life, so the effort and the expense needed to be shared. The plan was that after the wedding, that same account would become our family joint account. We began making regular contributions to that account. Some months I put in more, other times she did. As the account grew, so did the seriousness of our planning. We toured venues, discussed guest lists, figured out the budget, and tried to balance what we wanted with what we could afford. One day, I came home tired from work. Alicia was already at my place, sitting on the couch like she'd been waiting to talk. She looked calm but serious, and I could tell from the way she folded her hands that something was on her mind. She said we needed to talk, never a good opener. Then she brought it up. Before we could pick a wedding date, she wanted me to meet her parents. I didn't hesitate. In fact, I welcomed the idea. After all, we were about to build a life together, and I thought it made sense to meet the people who raised her. I had already met her younger sister a few times before, and we got along just fine. So I thought, how bad could it be to meet her parents? We picked a weekend. I packed a simple bag, and we made the trip to her family's house. When we got there, her mom opened the door. She smiled warmly, gave me a light hug, and welcomed me in. That instantly put me at ease. Her dad came out next. He shook my hand firmly, looked me in the eye, and asked how the drive was. Then he invited me to sit down and have a chat. He asked about my job, my background, and what kind of family I came from. The kind of stuff you'd expect a father to ask the guy who's about to marry his daughter. To me, everything seemed to be going smoothly. Her mom was polite and smiled during conversations. Her dad wasn't overly warm, but he wasn't cold either. He listened when I spoke, and we even had a one-on-one moment where we talked about my plans for the future. I remember thinking, that went better than I expected. We stayed 2 nights. Alicia didn't say anything afterward to suggest there was a problem. So I walked away from that weekend thinking I had done well. I honestly believed I had passed whatever unspoken test was being run. There was nothing in their behavior that gave me even the slightest idea that I'd soon be hearing that they didn't think I was good enough. After we visited my girlfriend's parents, I expected we'd spend the following days ironing out the final details for the wedding. But almost immediately after that visit, something changed. And not in a way that's easy to explain with one word. It was subtle. She said she had been given a last-minute task at work, something urgent, time-consuming. I didn't argue. I know what work stress looks like. So I told her to take her time and get through it, and I figured we'd reconnect properly once the dust settled. The thing is, even when you're busy, you make time for what matters. That week, we barely talked. A few texts here and there. A phone call that felt more like checking a box than actually talking to each other. By the end of that week, I realized we hadn't seen each other since we left her parents' place. I brushed it off. But then another week rolled by. No visit. No real conversation. And at that point, it felt like I was the only one still leaning forward, still planning for the life we were supposed to be building together. The silence didn't feel peaceful anymore. Then, on a Saturday over 2 weeks since I last saw her, she came over. But everything about her felt different. She sat down like someone who'd been rehearsing something. She just sat down, looked me dead in the eye, and said, "My parents don't think you're good enough for me, so I think we need a break." And just like that, the 2 weeks of silence made sense. Everything fell into place. She'd made up her mind long before she came over. I could see it in her face. She wasn't asking for time to think. She had already thought about it. I was just being informed. I looked at her, took a deep breath, and said the only thing I could. "I understand." She stood up, ready to go. I told her, "Okay, take care." But just because I didn't react on the outside doesn't mean I didn't feel the shock. After she left, I sat down and opened my laptop. I logged in to check the joint account history. And what I saw didn't sit right with me. There were no recent deposits from Alicia. The only activity was from my end. It was like she had silently backed out without saying a word, just letting me keep feeding into it alone. This looked calculated. This looked like a decision she had already made long before she walked into my living room. That's when I decided. Weeks before that conversation, we had toured a wedding venue together. We asked questions. She held a brochure in one hand, my hand in the other. We talked about where the guests would sit, where we'd take photos, and even joked about which relatives we'd have to seat far apart. You don't do all that if you're not planning to go through with it. That wasn't the behavior of someone unsure. So I picked up the phone and called the wedding venue myself. I gave them her name, our tour date, and asked about the reservation. The person on the other end didn't hesitate. "Oh, that reservation was canceled earlier this week." Alicia called it off. I didn't say much. I just thanked them, ended the call, and sat still for a while. That's when I had a full realization. She had already decided before walking into my apartment. That whole performance about needing a break wasn't a reaction to her parents. It wasn't a decision made in the moment. It was a cover. She'd already pulled out, days before facing me. I wasn't part of that decision. I wasn't even told. In that moment, it was clear this wasn't a mutual pause. It was an exit planned, dressed up as hesitation. I didn't waste time spiraling. I opened our joint wedding savings account. I reviewed the deposits. It was mostly me, so I did what felt fair. I calculated the total amount I had put in since day one. I cross-checked bank statements, verified each transfer, and then calmly withdrew my share. I didn't touch hers. I didn't empty the account. I took exactly what I had put in, nothing more. Once that was done, I logged out and mentally closed that chapter. A few hours later, my phone rang. It was Alicia. She was yelling, so loudly I had to pull the phone slightly away from my ear. "Did you just give up on us like that?" "After everything," she screamed. Her voice was raw, full of disbelief and anger. You'd think I had blindsided her, but I was the one who got hit with a decision she had clearly made weeks ago. I kept my voice calm, and I told her that I didn't give up on us first. She did. She gave up when she sat on something as serious as her parents' disapproval of me for 2 whole weeks and said nothing. She gave up when she slowly started detaching herself, making excuses, and barely keeping in touch. And most of all, she gave up when she canceled the wedding venue behind my back. I reminded her that I respected her choice. I listened and didn't make a scene when she said we needed space. Now I was asking for the same thing in return. Respect my decision, too. If she could decide on her own that we were done, then she shouldn't be surprised that I chose to accept it and move on. I wasn't going to stay in limbo while she figured out if I was worth fighting for. That's not love. That's indecision. And I wasn't going to live on pause while she got clarity. She kept pushing, talking about how her parents were just trying to protect her, that I was being too harsh, that she still loved me. But honestly, in that moment, none of it mattered anymore. The trust had been broken. And once someone shows you they can fold under pressure, or worse, let others decide what you're worth, you have to believe them. So I ended the call. A few more days went by, then weeks. But exactly a month after that last call, she reached out again. This time, she switched tactics. There was no "I miss you" this time. She said she was surprised that I hadn't fought for our relationship. "I expected you to try harder," she said. I swear it was like she thought I owed her some dramatic movie moment where I show up in the rain with flowers, begging her parents for a second chance. I didn't take the bait. I didn't start defending myself or arguing with her. I just asked her plainly, "Why are you calling me?" She stuttered for a second, then admitted she wanted us to get back together. I told her that it wasn't possible. But she wasn't done, as she said. We were only on a break. Right now, the break is over. So I told her, "Don't call me again," and then I ended the call. Alicia couldn't handle the rejection. It caught her off guard. I wasn't supposed to walk away calmly. I was supposed to grovel, call her nonstop, try to prove myself to her family, fight for the relationship. At least, that's what she had hoped for. But I didn't. And when she realized I wasn't coming back, that's when she tried retaliating online. She made a TikTok. In that video, she painted herself as the poor woman who got blindsided by a man she loved and trusted. She didn't mention the part where her parents disapproved of me, and she agreed with them. She didn't say she had canceled our wedding venue behind my back. No, she implied I had stolen our wedding funds and run off. She called me immature without using my name directly, but it was clear enough who she was talking about. Anyone who knew us would piece it together in seconds. The captions, the tone, the carefully chosen sad music in the background. It was all designed to frame her as the heartbroken one who'd been taken advantage of. And the worst part? People believed her. She started texting and DMing mutual friends, people who knew both of us. With them, she played a different game. She acted like she was caught in a misunderstanding, like the situation was complicated and she didn't know how to fix it. She spun half-truths, dropped just enough facts to sound honest, and left out the parts that would make her look bad. She told some that I overreacted, told others that she just needed space, but I ghosted her. She made herself look like someone trying to repair a relationship, while I was the one who cut and ran. I didn't call her out in a counter video. Instead of reacting emotionally, I made one smart move. I had my lawyer send her a formal cease and desist notice warning about defamation and the consequences of spreading false claims that could affect my name or livelihood. Once that legal document landed in her inbox, the TikTok stopped. The indirect jabs ended. She deleted the post. She backed off, at least publicly. To this day, I genuinely have no idea what went wrong during that visit to Alicia's parents' house. And believe me, I've gone over every single moment in my head again and again, trying to find the exact point where things might have soured, but nothing stands out. From my perspective, the visit went smoothly. Nothing about that weekend screamed red flag. If anything, I left there thinking I'd made a good impression. That's why it still confuses me. Alicia never gave me a real explanation. Since then, Alicia's been in and out of different relationships. It's not something I keep track of intentionally, but mutual friends talk, and her name comes up from time to time. From what I hear, nothing stuck. None of the guys has been serious. But honestly, that doesn't concern me. That part of my life is over. I won't lie and pretend like it didn't hurt when everything ended. So yeah, that's my story. And now I want to hear from you. Honestly, what would you have done in my shoes? You invest your time, your energy, your savings, 3 years of your life, only to be told you're not good enough, with no clear reason? Would you have begged? Waited? Fought for someone who wouldn't fight for you? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to know if you've ever been in something similar or if you think I handled it the right way. And above all, I hope this reminds someone out there that self-respect isn't pride, it's protection. Sometimes, letting go when someone doesn't choose you is the most dignified thing you can do. Don't chase conditional love. You deserve better than that.